What is up, YouTube fam? Robbie C here. Today we are at Oliver Park with the 2024 DGA Tour Series. Excited to dive into these because y'all are clicking on this video because you want to get good at disc golf. You want to be like the people stamped on these discs. You want to get there fast. And I get it because we all want to find success as fast as possible. And that's what we're going to hopefully try to do today. Let's help you guys improve your game, or at least show you some of the paths you could take to get good as fast as possible. So before we dive in, I have to ask, Arlo, how are you doing today? Are you having a good one?
So catch me if I fall.
So this is probably one of the most clickbait title slash thumbnails that I have done in quite some time, but I'll go ahead and address the elephant in the room here about clickbait and YouTube. At the end of the day, for videos to be somewhat successful, you have to have a reason to click on them. So where I think clickbait comes up short is where you ask people to come into the video and you don't deliver on what you tried to get people to click the video with. But I have absolutely no problem, nor do I think it's like morally wrong to entice people to click on something if you know you're going to deliver on it. So when I tell you that I want you to improve quick and that I hope this video gets you along the way, I mean it. I would not make this video if I didn't think that was possible. So I've got 5 different things that I think if you focus on these, if you do these, you're going to see the most consistent stroke gains possible in your game as fast as possible. And almost all of these are methods that if you stick with them for a short amount of time, even if you've been playing the game for 10 years, you're going to see that improvement. Or if you've been playing it for 10 days, focusing on these things early is going to help you the most. Now, to further prove that we're not in like the clickbait game, lots of people are going to be like, make sure you stick around because number 5 is easily the most important. You know what? Forget it. We'll go ahead and throw most important in at number 2 because I think it will come up sooner rather than later, at least. But while we're talking about these, I actually DGA, the Disc Golf Association, not the PDGA, the DGA, Disc Golf Association, they actually have the rights to discgolf.com, one of the first organizations that ever came out, founded by Steady Ed Hedrick, who basically created our sport. DGA sent me their tour series. There are 8 tour series discs, and what the marketing team is trying to do over at DGA this year is they're trying to shift the focus to their players and kind of let them be the market. So we have 8 Tour Series discs that we're going to be playing 8 holes with. It's in this like swirly, really pretty plastic. I'm excited for that. There is actually only 1 putter in the set. So Evan with the Steady BL, you're going to get a lot of screen time today because we're going to be putting on every hole. But we'll go ahead and dive into hole 1 and showcase our first disc, which is someone local to this area. All right, our first disc comes for Sullivan Tipton, the pickleballer himself. Hurricane driver, which actually takes us to our first tip, which is you need to find discs that work for your arm speed. And what do we mean by that? Arm speed is your ability to not necessarily like, that's arm speed. How fast can you like swing your arm? No, arm speed really translates to your ability to inject power and spin into the disc. The more arm speed you have, the more power and speed you can inject into the disc. And discs all have a speed to them, which is basically just a threshold. Finding discs that you can actually get movement out of and you can see them do what they're supposed to do, that's picking the right one. When it comes to higher speed drivers like your 12s and your 13s, which the Hurricane falls into, my backhand arm speed is not as consistent in hitting them. My forehand is though, so we're gonna be throwing a couple of these drivers. I'm gonna throw them on forehand because I think that that's a better showcase for it. And Sullivan, actually forehand player, we're going 305 feet. It is just out there. Gotta hang it out over the road and let it skip in. Let's see what you got, Sully. Reliable, hangs out wide, crashes in. Exactly what you'd be expecting out of that if you're looking for a reliable crashing disc. Sully himself said it flies like a beat-in force, but I think that for most people who have mortal arm speeds, whether it's forehand or backhand, it's gonna fly like a really nice overstable wind fighter for you. Okay, not near as short as I thought, but let's talk about why you wanna find or throw discs that are your arm speed. When it comes to finding discs that are your arm speed, for instance, you'll see lots of pros that have destroyers or D2s or hurricanes in their bag. And so they have these in their bag and they're using them as their like max distance driver shot. But here's the thing about throwing this kind of disc for a max distance driver shot. If you don't have the arm speed to really put into this to get a proper flight out of it, where it's gonna, if you watch probably Sully throw this, it's gonna have a little bit of turn to it, and then it's gonna fade at the very end. So turn being that like it goes the opposite direction of how you initially throw it, and then fade being it leaning into what it's supposed to do. Sully's gonna get that. But for you to try to throw that shot, what you're gonna end up having to do is you're gonna have to end up ripping it on all of this like forced turnover to try to get that move out of it. And it's going to create some form habits that are not going to be as consistent. So because you're having to overjuice these discs that are a little too fast for you, you're going to end up creating bad form rather than trusting your form to exist and throw discs without you having to go so powerful, so that you can get consistently smooth and straight shots that you're looking for. Putting with a steady BL, Evan Scott. Here we go. Just a little bit of wind coming right to left there. Didn't give her a chance. Now, once again, I'll be the first to tell you that just because you have a slow arm speed doesn't mean you can't have something like a hurricane in your bag, but it's not going to be used for maybe what the hurricane was designed to be for those longer, faster arms. This could be much more of a utility slide type disc in your bag, but it needs to be that. It needs to be utility that you're not going to all the time. I've played with loads of amateur players who are throwing 300 feet and they're pulling out that big distance driver every single time trying to throw it. And they're getting that 300 feet, but if they would simply change discs to something that's more their arm speed, not only could they get that 300 feet easier, which would cause less like grind and wear and tear on the arm and the body, but actually because it's easier to reach those results, you could find more consistency, easier time scoring, and more repeatable results. Now this hole, really, really excited for. It's like 250 feet, I think. I want to say, but we're going to try something a little wacky, a little crazy with this, and we're actually going to go with the Parker Welk Quake. The Quake is a disc that I think lots and lots of people have really started to fall in love with. I would say the Quake, the Sail, and probably the Pipeline are the three discs that most people, if you're familiar with the DGA lineup, those are the ones you're most likely going to. Quake, overstable flyer. It's going to kind of want to fade in at all times. Hole is dead straight, but what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to, for some reason when I first discovered this course and I played this hole, I actually played the silly line, which was going out and over this baseball field and crashing it back in. So we're going to try exactly that, so we don't go two forehands, because the smart play here, everybody, would just be go forehand out wide, let it crash in. Traditionally, that's what I do. I just throw a pig on a forehand, but we're here for the memes, here for the vibes. No wonder we were short on the last one. I forgot my towel tail. Okay, let's go make a putt. Let's see if we can make a putt and really highlight point number 2, which is, I think, the most important, which is if you want to become a more consistent player, you want to get good fast, you need to worry about putting. So many people are going to get addicted to the drug of distance over and over and over again. And I promise you, I don't care how far you throw, it's never enough. Ask David Wiggins, who throws 1,100 feet in the desert with his Blizzard Boss. If you asked him like, oh, you're throwing a consistent 650, 670, do you want 50 more feet? And he would darn sure tell you, yeah, I do think I would like that. But something that you're going to have to do on 99.9% of disc golf holes that you play is you're going to have to make a putt. You're going to have to get out there and throw a putt that matters, whether it's a tap in or whether it's here from, what was this? Hold on. A little over 22 feet. Those putts right there, if you're making those during your rounds, let's just say you're making everything from here in. The amount of strokes, especially against amateurs, that you're going to save by simply making all those putts in one, huge. And you want to know someone who does this better than most? He's relevant on the Pro Tour, and y'all, let me tell you, not a distance thrower. Quite simply, not a distance thrower. I got to find his disc in here. That's right. We're talking Andrew Marweed. Andrew Marweed has a great forehand. fantastic forehand. Probably why he went with this disc, which is the Avalanche, super overstable driver. This is for even the pros. This is a very utility disc. One of the reasons why Andrew probably leans on this is because the courses they're playing so long, a lot of them have open holes, and because of those open holes, the wind gets crazy. And so this, super reliable. You know it's gonna fade every single day of the week. This dude, one of the best putters on tour. In fact, the best putter on tour most often, wins putting competition after putting competition. And how does he stay relevant? Because he makes all of his putts. While the rest of the field steps up and they're looking at these circle one putts and they're like, oh no, I don't know. Andrew's just bang, 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 bang. So sure, maybe he doesn't have the distance that other players in the field have, so his putts are for pars, but when he has birdie putts, he's making them because his putt is consistent. And I think that's something, especially if you're trying to become a consistent player, if you're trying to get good fast, having the ability to have birdie looks and not squander them away because you trust your putt, huge. Having the ability to mess up the tee shot, mess up the approach, and to know, oh, I can still save this par with a good putt, huge. Let's see, 330 feet. Let's see what we can do, Mr. Marweed. Okay. The fact that that faded, me throwing it into that much headwind, and even like trusting it, maybe even threw on a little anhyzer and it still faded, that's a beefy disc. That's a beefy disc. Here, let me show you for example. We'll give Sully another chance. I'm gonna try to yam him just as hard as I yammed that last one. Sully just turned over. Marweed not only didn't really turn over, it pushed straight and it still faded at the end. That's beef. That's beef. All right, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. That's kind of crazy. I must have yammed this thing so hard. I mean, it kicked and then sat. Obviously, out of position on the drive. We're not where we want to be. We want to be closer. We are just outside the circle. We are probably, you know, just go ahead and count it. 1, 2, 13, 14. Okay. We're a little more than outside the circle. We're 42 feet. But if we trust our putting, we believe in our putting, and we practice our putting, we have the opportunity here to still, this is where like you practice your putting, you feel elite about your putting. Everyone else on the card is looking at you like, bro, this man's so out of position. Here's where we get one on him. Easy peasy. And they did. Can you imagine how much it takes out of the soul of your opponent so you hit a putt like that? You feel good? But once again, those are long putts. So expectations wise, we should feel okay about that. But how do you improve your putting? How do you make putting a confidence, make putting part of yours? 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes a day. All I want you to do is I want you to find 10 minutes a day. That could be 10 minutes where you, instead of scrolling on social media for 10 minutes, you go putt. A great example of this, I know one of my coaches, Mike Strauss, if he couldn't get outside or he couldn't set up a basket inside, he putted into his couch, putted into a couch pillow and focused on hitting like a specific pillow on his couch. Bang, hit that over and over again. It just gives you the practice of throwing a putt, throwing something and hitting a specific target. You don't have a couch pillow, you have the opportunity to get outside. Buy a shovel, a cheap shovel from Home Depot or Lowry's. Buy one of those, shove it in the ground, paint a section of the handle. It could be a $10 handle, $10 shovel, bang. Set that up, hit that handle over and over again. And I promise you, if you look at this basket off in the distance right now, what's that orange little mark that's at the top? That's so you can identify the basket from a distance. But man, does that look eerily like the handle of a shovel. And imagine how much easier it is if you're hitting that shovel handle consistently. How much easier it's gonna be to hit the whole basket. Next up, we have flagship mold for DGA, and that is the sail, Katrina Allen sail. This one's 173 to 174 grams. Now, a sail that actually made my bag for a long time was in this more shimmery plastic, and these I think tend to run a little more overstable for sails. It's 440 feet to that pin right there. But the thing about that 400 feet is that there's a danger creek running right at the middle. So we're gonna go with the sail because there's so much open space to the right, bringing us to our third point to get good fast, which is don't be afraid of pars. So often we are like, we have to birdie every single hole. And that's a mentality at the top level MPO. They are trying to birdie every single hole. But that is like the 0.001% of our sport trying to do that and doing it successfully. I could, let's say I have the rogue in my bag for Eliezer, and I could throw the rogue on this hole and try to hang it out wide and let it just have like a little crash in there. The reason I'm going with the sail here is because if it stands up enough and then falls backwards and fading, it's gonna be perfect. Easy distance, which is what this kind of a disc is trying to give you. But if it doesn't, and let's say it burns all the way over because it's a sail, that's okay, because there's no danger to the right. So I'll still have the opportunity to save the par here because I'm not afraid of pars. Or we just throw it really low into the ground and don't really give it a chance to shine. But that low to the ground just shows you how good the sail is. I mean, that thing never got basically higher than my waist and still went well over 300 feet. We're just gonna take our little steady BL, hang it out wide, let it circle the pole, and bada boom, bada bing, we're tapping in for a par. Did we want to put a birdie on the table? We did. That's why we tried to throw the sail, especially in that wind. But not being afraid of the par put us in no danger. At any point was I going to give a stroke back to the field here. At no point. So next hole, we're throwing the Macy Valadez Rift, and I want to talk about this stamp for a second. Lucas Musgrave designed these, and it's very like graffiti like esque, but I do love that like Macy's season had the whole like she is expecting right now. I actually think if she's cool with it, I think it's so sick that they included that in the like stamp. Super neutral flyer, kind of holds whatever line you want to put it on. So we could throw it on Annie here, but the wind is pushing right to left. So we're actually going to go for the really fun gap up the right side and see if we can hit that gap and then get it to flare over to the basket. It's just that easy. Another where if we didn't hit the gap and we hit those trees, yeah, we did take the more difficult option that's available to us, but we also played so far away from the road, which is basically the only thing that would make the par really tough to get here. And then we threw it down there. So we have a birdie chance, but never took anything worse than a par, never brought anything worse than a par into play. Macy got so close to the basket. It just easy tap in. So our fourth tip on trying to improve as fast as you can is to identify a strength of your game and do everything you can to let it shine during your rounds. I'm not trying to say that you need to avoid your weaknesses at all times, but no matter how much I focus on X thing, it will never be as strong as someone else who that is their strength. I say this because we're throwing the Eliezer Mittling Rogue. The Rogue, sneaky disc in the DGA lineup. Sneaky. I mean, this thing absolutely crushes a quarter mile when you get a hold of it, and it's such an easy disc to throw, but so many people overlook it inside the lineup. I mean, you look at those flight numbers right there, this thing's so good, and I love that Eliezer, one of the farthest throwers in the game, especially the FPO fields, she chose this as her Tour Series disc. Such an excellent choice. But here's the deal. Like for me personally, not a distance thrower. But you know what I could do for hours upon hours without ever like getting bored? Practice putting. That is so fun to me. And I know that that is just simply not true for so many other people. A person who comes to mind with this, and I'm not trying to throw him under the bus, but like Ben Kinney's intern Ben loves to try to learn how to throw farther. That is like legitimate fun to him, to geek out on form and study and grow as a distance thrower. When Ben is playing courses, if he's trying to get better, he needs to find opportunities and find room for that to shine. That could be choosing different lines that more accent his throw, or that could simply be playing different courses, however it comes up. For me personally, I'm going to, if putting being a major strength of mine, I'm going to try to find a place, find an opportunity to throw tee shots that allow me to have an opportunity to let that putting shine. The tailwind has been coming this way, so let's see if we can't get a little extra flip out of this because we're throwing it into a headwind. Miss that. So, did we get more flip out of it? We certainly didn't, because we threw like a little uphill. It's pretty much uphill for lots of the way, and I threw a nose up uphill. When you find yourself with the opportunity to use your strengths, use them. But I want to head into tip number 5, because while I do think that tip number 2 is the most valuable, it's probably gonna be the most overlooked. Number 5 might be legitimately where I started getting the most confidence in my game than anything other else. We're actually throwing the Evan Scott Steady BL. We're gonna throw it this time so you guys can see it, as opposed to like chip up shots. It's about a 200-foot hole. And our 5th and final tip is to find a disc that you feel just an overwhelming amount of confidence in, 250 feet and in. Find that disc, and the tip to improve as fast as you can, and this is gonna be like this feels like such a cheesy tip. Buy 10 of them. Find that disc and buy 10 of them. We talked about on number 4, find your strength, lean into it, and find the way to showcase that strength over and over again. You are going to throw more shots inside that 250 feet and in range than you will anywhere else. Because you step up to a tee shot like this and you're like, oh, it's 200 feet. You know what disc works here? A 250 foot and in disc. We're throwing the Steady BL. Let's see if we can't just go right at it. I mean, that disc is dirty, dude. Evan, I'm like so confident looking at the lineup here that the crime against the world is that Evan or Eliezra's will be the least purchased discs just because of the molds that they are. And what a crime. Y'all are on a hill. Here's why finding that disc that works 250 feet and in. Find yourself on a short hole, boom. Your tee shot, 250 feet and in. Find yourself on a long hole that you don't have the distance. Maybe you're 100 feet short, boom. Disc you're throwing 100 feet and in. Find yourself on a par 4, 500-foot par 4, but oh man, I only throw 350. You know what that leaves you? 150 feet. Boom. You're throwing that 250 foot shot and in. The ability to practice over and over again, because once you do that, you're going to find so much confidence and consistency in that mold that you're untouchable. Last hole of the video, figured why not challenge ourselves? Chick-fil-A bet himself, Cole Redolin. I mean, I'll be honest, someone did an 8-bit version of me putting, and it's so sick. To be able to reach out to Lucas and get one of these, that'd be sick. A Robbie C, my little towel tail doing its thing. 352 feet. It's that silver basket sitting right in front of it. I'm gonna try to channel my inner Cole and just go smooth here. One thing that I know I really love about the pipeline is it does whatever you want it to. If you throw it on hyzer, it's gonna hold hyzer. Throw it flat, it's gonna ride straight, probably still have a little finish to it. Throw it on an ante, it'll hold it. So we're gonna try to swing out of the parking lot and then fade in. You know, did it get the full 352? It sure didn't. But it left ourselves with a putt. Here we go. Thanks once again to DGA for sponsoring this video and allowing us to talk about these. Honestly, plastic, really, really fun. Even really sunny day out here. It's like 80 degrees here when I'm filming this, even sitting in the sun. A little malleable, but like still really firm, which I like. Evan Scott Steady BL, beautiful flyer. Not necessarily am I putting with a premium plastic putter, which is where you saw it most of the time, but on the one you throw, you saw it really good. If you're looking for that 250 foot and in disc, this could be it. Very neutral, very workable. Macy Valadiaz Rift, really, really good. When you get a hold of this thing and you actually throw it well, it is gonna fly super, super straight and then still have a little finish at the end, but also incredibly workable, like we saw on the hole that I threw it here in the video. Follows whatever line you put it on. The thing about the pipeline is it's everything you want it to be. You can see even when I just threw this hole just a second ago that I didn't really give it a ton of power and it still carried like over 300 feet, which feels really good. If I were putting like a driver in someone's hand, like you're not used to throwing drivers and things like that, this is a fairway driver, but man, super, super beautiful. The Parker Welk Quake, really, really fantastic. I mean, it didn't matter. This thing was fading every single time. No matter how wide I threw it, it always got back. It had so much movement right to left on a backhand, which feels really good. And if you think about, I mean, we hung this thing out so wide into somewhat of a headwind, and it still had enough hook to get there. Speaking of beef, moving to the Andrew Marweed Avalanche. I will say this Avalanche, this run, if you like the Avalanche, you like that beef disc, but maybe the first runs were a little too overstable for you. This is not as overstable as that first run, at least not in my experience. It had like into that headwind, still had finish at the end, and even when throwing it flat in the field, when I finally got a hold of it on a forehand, it went straight and then still had finish at the end. So really, really fantastic flyer. I think if you like how the Avalanche feels in your hands, this could be a great 1-2 complement to the first run Avalanche. Really great. Hurricane, really fantastic. Once again, for me on a backhand, it's overstable. It falls to the sky. I didn't really get a hold of it well on any times that I threw it on a backhand, but on a forehand's really where it shines. I can turn this thing over for sure, so that definitely isn't the most overstable like driver in the world, which is actually pretty fantastic for you when looking at it. The thing I really did like is I did throw it in a forehand in the field, and it got like easy flex out of it and then faded back, which is phenomenal. If you have a good to great forehand and you're looking for a distance driver that you don't feel like you've got to like yam on, this could be it entirely, which makes so much sense because Sully is a forehand dominant guy, and him having this workable of a disc with his name on it, couldn't think of a better matchup. Guys, I've talked about it so many times, can't say it enough. The Rogue sleeper disc. Probably the most sleeper disc, this or the Steady BL. If you throw 300 feet on a backhand, this could be the driver that takes you to the 350. And then last but not least, the disc that truly, to me, always fights for a slot in my bag. Can't stress this enough. Here's the beautiful part about this sail. We throw it like we did on the hole. Didn't have a great throw, still fantastic option. You don't have a big forehand, you're not trying to throw the Sully Hurricane on a forehand because you don't have that opportunity. Sail can be a really great option for that, but also throw this thing a little finesse, a little power, like a nice little snap. For slower arm speeds, the sail going to be your dream distance driver, and like I said, in this shiny plastic, it's going to be the most overstable option. So definitely go check them out. Discgolf.com, DGA, go check it out. Let me know in the comments what was the most helpful tip for you, or what DGA disc are you most looking forward to signing. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Please, please make it fantastic for someone else too. But for now, we're going to leave you with the birdie.